Troops, here we are. It's another Eagle podcast. I've been joined tonight by a friend of mine who helped me on the Blend Caffrey project, and that's where I first met her. Cracking Instagram account, really, really inspirational. Always out. Like, sometimes I wondered, does she even have a house? Just lives in a tent. It's Adventurer Nic. Nic, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm smashing. I was sort of looking at Instagram account of the weekend, and we'll just go straight into it. You are probably, you and Becky, I reckon, the queen of the stories. So, how did you get so good at stories?
I don't know. I just love stories. You know, when Instagram didn't have stories, literally all you could do is write a little comment on or like a post.
Right.
Now it's so interactive. You can do all sorts. You can do polls. You can ask questions. You can get advice. You can encourage people to like have proper interactions, because I think people will say more over DM than they necessarily will in public comments sometimes, particularly if they're new to it. So I think if they've not very experienced and whatnot, they'll ask you a question and you'll get that kind of engagement, but they wouldn't necessarily ask it on a public post. So I think it's really good for that.
Ah, that's interesting. And why do you think that is? Because people are afraid to be criticised, or I seem to have asked a silly question.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I'd have been the same when I was getting into it as well. Like, you don't want to ask a stupid question to people who are perhaps more experienced than you, kind of thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, they do say there's no such thing as a stupid question, which I always sort of say, why do men have nipples? Which is sort of the DS answer. But you take a lot of time. You know, your stories aren't just like, bosh, out. Like, you can see there's a lot of thought process goes into them. Sometimes I'm a little bit like, if it makes me chuckle, I put it out there. Do you know what I mean? And like, I don't care if it isn't quite perfect. What do you how do you build a story in your mind and then before you put it on Instagram? I'm interested in the process.
Yeah, I think I just capture things as I go. I take a lot of photographs, just naturally. I always have done, even before I was even using Instagram. So you capture everything, whether it's a really good view, stunning sunrise, sunset, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then you also take a picture of those little bits that you come across, like, I don't know, insects doing stupid things. Like, I've come across like sheep that are like rubbing the bums up against a post, and like it just looks ridiculous. You know, you take a little video here, a little picture there of like, it's the little things really that then you can build like the story around. And I think that way people feel like they've kind of come with you and joined you on whatever journey that you've been on, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Where were you at the weekend? For those who didn't see?
I was in the Lake District. I started off on Friday in Grasmere, picked myself up some Grasmere gingerbread. You just got to do that every time you go to Grasmere, from the little gingerbread shop. Picked that up from their shop, and then went up to Castle Crag, hopefully for a good sunset. But unfortunately, weather didn't play ball, and it started hailing quite heavily on the Castle Crag. But I got the tent up in time.
Nice.
Castle Crag's only a dinky fell. I think it's the smallest Wainwright, so it's only like 300 and some meters, so you can get up there fairly easily. Camped out, woke up the next day, and then had 2 days in the fells around, where did we go now? It was the bog fest between High Tove and High Seat, up above Derwent Water on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday it was up round Lord Seat, Broome Fell, sort of Northwest Lakes. So yeah, we've had a really good weekend. And
was some of that on your own, and was that some of that with other people?
Yeah, so the Friday night was on my own, camping up there, which I like to do every now and then. In fact, some of my best trips have been like Northwest Highlands, middle of nowhere, just me and my tent.
Wow.
Yeah, I really love that side of things. But then the Saturday and the Sunday, it was joining a group of friends really to go on those walks. So yeah, a bit of both. It's quite nice to be able to embrace both.
Sort of on that standpoint, I've had people say to me before, who sort of starting the mountain leader process. It's a part of the process where you have to get so many wild camps, and I think what puts people, and I don't want to say puts them off, but it's definitely something that it's sort of like, oof, I've got to go and do that. Wild camping on your own, I don't care if you're a man or a woman, I've wild camped on my own, and there's been times where I've woke up at like 2, 3 in the morning and gone, it was that outside my tent. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and it's probably a sheep. Like more often than not, if you're in England, it's a sheep.
Yeah, exactly. So, on that, how did you? Where was your first wild camp, and why? You know, you've taken really well to, haven't you? You love a wild camp.
Yeah, my first ever wild camp was actually on an island in the middle of Ullswater.
Oh
Me and
wow!
a friend, me and a friend actually kayaked out there and did it, but it was before I'd ever done any camping. So they were introducing me to wild camping essentially in one of the most dramatic ways, which was like wild
Wow!
camping in a really unique location.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just like from then it just took off for me. I was like buying my own tent then. It was really cheap tent off Amazon.
Yeah.
It was less than £100. And just got enough kit together to be able to start doing it myself in summer, in good weather really.
Yeah.
And then it's just gone on from there for me. So that was my first ever wild camp. My first ever solo wild camp was up in northwest Scotland.
Oh wow!
Near Loch Assynt, where the good thing about that was I could stay fairly low level on my own, but in the middle of nowhere, so without the kind of more dangerous aspect of having to go up a steep ascent with a big bag or whatever. So stayed fairly low, but then it's legal as well in Scotland. So then you think I ain't got the issues of farmers wanting to move me on and things like that, whereas wild camping in the lakes, I always go really high and pretty much almost wholly summit camping above the highest wall or boundary. So
yeah, that's I feel like a lot of people make a big deal of this. Like, for one, who like I don't know anyone that's ever been moved on, and who's out trying to police it? The wild camping police just roaming around at midnight, looking for tents. I'm like, there's no resources to police the UK, so where's the money coming from to move people who are just camping on mountains? I
think you've just got to be sensible, and you've just got to promote the whole like arrive late, leave early, leave no trace, all that. You know, as long as you seem to be doing that, I'm sure it's absolutely fine anyway. But yeah, it's just that in Scotland you get just that added. You just sleep a bit easier knowing that you're not
going to get moved on. But isn't that part of it though, Nick? Isn't that part of the old experience?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's true. That's true. I have this weird irrational fear that I always get, and I don't tend to get it as much with wild camping, but I get it every single time with Bothies. And for anybody who doesn't know, Bothies like these primitive structures, generally in Scotland, but they are all over the country as well. Where
primitive.
You can. There just tends to be a bench in there. Sometimes there's a fireplace and stuff like that. But yeah, you kind of go, and then I have this fear that I'm going to meet like a real like horrible person in a Bothy. You know, like a young like I don't know. Like getting drunk and like trashing the place and stuff like that. So like just this fear where I open the door and like, what am I going to find when I look in? And I've never met a bad person in a Bothy. I only ever met like lovely outdoorsy, really open, like lovely people.
I think with Bothies, the last one I stayed at, I nicknamed it my nana's shed because it was absolutely barbaric. It was up in Galloway, and it's sort of 3 or 4 k's off sort of the main road, and it sort of does get used for like drinking and stuff. But we stayed there at like the start of December, and it was just barbaric. Do you know what I mean? It was just absolutely barbaric, and there was 4 of us in there, and we had a right laugh, because the thing is with a Buffy, there's nothing else to do but to talk. Like, I've never been to one where you get a Wi-Fi signal, so your phone's gone. So it forces you and the guys to like have a laugh. Oh, what you eating? What's that roll mat? Oh yeah, what sort of pillow is that? What sleeping bag you've got? And you actually learn a lot about other people's sort of kit. And it's
they're
very social,
cracking.
isn't it?
Yeah, very exciting. I mean, the last one I stayed in was actually in Wales, in the Arronigs, and it was the tiniest Bothy. So I only had room for 2 to 3 people really. And me and my partner James got there, and it was just us 2. And it, like you say, in middle of December, I think it was like week before Christmas or something like that. Yeah. So a time that we thought were guaranteed to be quiet. And sod law, somebody comes in, and then you think, oh, here we go. Like, what are they going to be like? And this guy came in, and you know when you're a bit dazzled, he's had his eyes used to the darkness outside. You're very comfortable. They come in and they're a bit shocked, and they don't know what's going on. you know, we welcomed him in, sat down, got talking to him. Turned out is the biggest bothy bagger you've ever
Oh,
met.
really?
So he's slept in hundreds of bothies all over the country, ticking him off as he goes. It turns out this one's
nice.
like his local one, so it was only like half an hour from him. But yeah, Alan is called, and he was just really interesting guy.
Is
like
he,
talking about all the different bothies you could go to. And
is he on Instagram as the Buffy bagger by any chance?
no, I don't know. He's not.
He should be.
Mountain Star One, I think he is on Instagram.
Right.
But yeah, no, he's a really interesting guy, and you know, gave me lots of tips for bothies to go to. But then it was funny because when I was Munro bagging, we only ever went to bothies which were en route to Munros or near Munros, because otherwise it made no sense to putting in the extra miles just to get to a bothy if you could camp or whatever. So we stayed in, I think it was 11 Scottish bothies during the summer.
Nice.
But you could get anybody in there. So some people, they're breaking it up on a long distance trail. Some people are there to Munro bag, and for some people the bothy is the destination. So I'd never carry like alcohol. I don't even carry wood for the fire. I just have warm kit because I can't justify that extra weight, because 9 times out of 10 I'm walking another 20k the next day or whatever. Other people come and they bring alcohol, they bring food, like cooked food, proper meals and things for the bothy. So that's what I quite like, that diversity element. You'll see all kinds of people there with different goals.
Yeah, I think the only one I've been to like that is Dubs Bothy, because it's so close to the road, and it's like, well, saying that, I have found it in bad weather, and it isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be fair. So, but there is an element on a nice night from Honister to there, you know, probably a lot of people could find that without sort of too much trouble. Sort of more than remote bothies. I don't think I've ever been to a truly remote bothy. I hear some of them are pretty good. Like the one in Dubs, I've used the fire before. That was nice. It is, you know, they're not 5-star. You know, they're not an Airbnb. But if you've had a long day in the mountains and you're tired and you can't be asked putting your tent up and you see a bothy, it's like, thank God for that.
Yeah, exactly.
What would be your top 3 bothy tips? But no, I'll rephrase that. Bothy etiquette.
So biggest bothy etiquette is to never turn anyone away. So like somebody knocks on the door, whatever time of night. I mean, I've had people like turn up at like 1 o'clock in the morning when I've been like asleep from 11 o'clock, you know. And it's like, always open the door, always let everybody in. Yeah. Like my biggest bugbear, I think, in bothies is seeing like, I don't know, porridge sachet or something that somebody's left, and it's full, and it's like, so it's food and they mean well, but like that's just mouse food, you know what I mean? Like they're gonna gnaw right through it, they're gonna make a mess, they're gonna like defecate everywhere. It's just not good, you know? Like, so things like that, like seriously take away what you bring with you, whether it's eaten, drunk or not. Just, you know, just keep it as clean as possible, you know. I mean, leave things like wood, you know, candles, they're all right, and, or matches or something like something that somebody's going to find useful, but never food, and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just be open to like the people you might meet and just ask them lots of questions, because everybody's got a story. Nobody's using bothies who's like a couch potato who just sits at home every night watching Love Island, you know. It's like you're going to meet like really interesting folks that like tap into what they know, you know.
No, I tell you what, Nick, you're onto something there. Love Island, Buffy edition. Now we're talking. That would be interesting.
That would work really well, wouldn't it? Camera of your Buffy.
Yeah, mine is 20. Windows out. Freezing. The funniest thing I've ever found in a Buffy, and it was like super random. I found a dinghy. You know, like an inflatable dinghy to take down the beach, like a fully inflated dinghy. I was just like, what is going on in here? And then these two random guys turned up, and I was like, is this your dinghy? And he's like, oh yeah. Like there was a lake nearby, and I was like, he's like, yeah, we brought it flat pack, and then we've been on the lake today, innit? I was like, all right. I was like, how are you getting it down? Like, he's like, oh, we're just going to burst it and take it back down. I was like, all right, cool. And just, you know, you just walk into Buffy, like if you open the door to Buffy and you said, what you're going to find, no one ever is saying.
You'd never were going to guess that. Yeah,
You're never going to say dinghy, two paddles. But yeah, they are pretty random. The worst place I've ever stayed, and this is even speaking from my time in Afghanistan, is the Priest Hall, which is the most overrated, absolute. And let's talk about the word cave. It's not really a cave.
Not really. It doesn't go back very deep, does it? It's only a couple of meters deep, really.
Have you had the pleasure?
I've never stayed in there, but I've got a funny story about this because I went the first time I went. I used it as a shelter for lunch.
Right.
So we were up on the fell, and somebody said, "Oh, it's chucking it down with rain." And instead of just sitting and having a soggy sandwich on the fell side, we're like, "Let's just nip down to Priest Hall." So we did. Found it straight away. No issue. Yeah. There weren't any rubbish either. It were quite clean. Just actually met up some other Instagrammers who were actually in the
nice.
As well, just by chance. All had a sandwich in the dry, took a few photos and off we went, but it was like middle of the day. So me and James, my boyfriend, we said, "Oh, let's go and bivvy in the Priest Hall another time." So this comes round, and this time we go from Brothers Water, from the bottom, from the pub.
Yeah.
Starts walking up, starting to lose the light a little bit. But we were like, we've both been there before, so it was like, we're going to find it fine. Could we heckers find it? We must have been looking, it were hours, it were like 3 hours or something. And if you'd have looked at the GPS track on the thing, it would have just been like a big fuzzy mess, like that Mr. Man, Mr. Messy or whatever.
Yeah.
The string. We looked everywhere, but we could not find it. We must have been just below it, just above it, just to the left, just to the right. So we ended up bivvying on a random patch of grass outside, but luckily it was fairly dry. It did drizzle a little bit, but it was okay. So couldn't even find it the second time.
Yeah, that night, we did exactly the same thing. Me and my mate Chris Waldron, top boys, said, "Oh, come on, we'll have a meal in the pub, and then we'll make it a bit more spicier. We'll go out at sort of February in complete pitch black, and we'll ace it." And same again. We got in, but we got in. It took us a long time to find it. In sort of treacherous conditions. At one point, we ice axe and crampons, and it took some finding. And then we got there, and I was like, "Wow, I've never been so disappointed in my entire life." I was like, "It's took hours to find, and it's gash." I was like,
"Yeah."
But saying that, he took a photo the next day, which was just unbelievable, and I'm like, "Oh well, it's worth it." It's worth it for that thing alone. But actually, sort of, it is a really dangerous place like that at night, because a guy died there, didn't he? He fell out of the Priest Hall and fell to his death. So if you're going to go and find it, go in the daytime first. Find
but then even if you go in the daytime first, that don't guarantee you're going to find it at night, as I've proven.
No, true.
But I think it's just one of those things that you have to be experienced enough to know where you are and to be able to navigate properly, and you might not find it, but then you've just got to have a plan B. And I had a plan B of just being able to bivvy outdoors.
Exactly. And that's an adventure.
Well, worst case scenario, go down to the car. At the end of the day, if it's that dangerous, if it had been, absolutely chucking it down and whatever, it would have been a miserable night. I might have just given up, But I dogged. I was like at 1 o'clock in the morning before I give up. It was ridiculous.
But that's what makes it an adventure, and that's why I'm so anti this word walk, because a walk is something like very, very straightforward. Like you walk to the shop or you walk around Asda. But actually trying to find the Priest Hall or have an adventure in the lake, like literally you're in the land of the god, like anything could happen to you. And, it does really feel like you're right on the very, very limit of your capabilities. And I love it. Like that's what makes it an adventure. So that's why I try and beast people and say, stop saying walk, because it's a shit word. Getting an adventure.
You never know what the mountain is going to throw at you, and it could come through weather. Yeah. Or it could be a trip and a fall and bad terrain and things like that. But you just never know, do you? So it's like, but the more you get out there, the more you see and the more experience you get.
No, absolutely. And one thing that obviously I want to touch on, Instagram, social media, I believe in the last, and I've only been doing it maybe 2 years, but it's changing rambling. It's almost rebranding rambling and hiking. From something which was seen as a bit boring and a bit sort of like oldie worldy, socks over your trousers and all that sort of like wooden stick and you know, there's people making it look like bonkers. And what's your take on it, on the social media side to hiking and, I mean, outdoors?
I'd got into social media around the same time I got into hiking, so I've only been hiking and wild camping and everything for about 3 years. I've always enjoyed being outside. I'd always done running outside to keep fit and walked around reservoirs, like in nice peak districts and things like that. But I'd never done anything that I'd consider to be taxing or true, proper mountainous exercise. But yeah, it's a funny one, really. I use Instagram to kind of document pretty much everything. So I'm quite open. Like you say, with my stories, they're quite long and quite, I show lots of aspects of things. And I think when I'm in the middle of a challenge, like a peat bagging challenge, people are seeing all sides. So they're seeing the gritty stuff as much as the beautiful stuff. But there's no doubt about it. Everybody likes to put those photos in the feed where it's them stood with the back to the camera, beautiful view, because it makes you want to be there. It makes you want to stand in that location. And I think it's good for that, because it kind of inspires you to then I'm going to add that to the bucket list. And then the bucket list just gets longer and longer. And you're putting content on, and then people are seeing your content, and you can see people are doing what you're doing, but you're doing the same with them. You're looking at what they're doing and trying to replicate. And it has just snowballed and taken over now, and there's hundreds and thousands of people doing it, and they're documenting it through Instagram and getting a lot of support, meeting other people and getting a lot of ideas for new things. So in a way, a rebranding of it is kind of about what you've said. But I don't think it's limited as well to the younger generation. I mean, I'm 35, but people I've been out with have been I went out with a guy. One of the guys came this weekend, 67.
Oh, right.
So I don't think it's limited to, I've got friends who are in the 60s using Instagram, and of all ages, to be fair. But definitely more young people are doing it, for sure, absolutely. And in a way, I'm jealous, because they're finding it so much younger than I was. You know what I mean? When I see guys come out with me, friends, and they're in the 20s and stuff, as they've come on Instagram meets and we've got together, I'm so happy for them that they found this love now when they're so young, because I feel like I've wasted potentially over 10 years of my 20s when I could have been doing this, and I wasn't,
Yeah, I wish I found it sort of mid 25. 25 would have been perfect, because I was kind of done with drinking at 25. It took me another 5 years to really realize that. And if I'd have found it, it would have been perfect. And I've actually found a lot of stuff local to me, which has always obviously been here, but I was just never looking. And then the moment I started looking for it, literally I can walk out my house, and if I wanted to, I could hike to Lincoln from where I live in the northeast by using long distance trails. Do you know what I mean? And it's always been here, and there's always an adventure on your doorstep. You don't have to always go Scotland, Lakes, North Wales, South Wales. There's stuff locally where you think, oh wow, that's interesting. There's always something.
Yeah, sure.
No, it is having a good pull. And I'll tell you the next platform, TikTok will be the next platform to really smash the outdoor community, because there's a guy on there at the moment who's really, really embraced TikTok, from an outdoor point of view. And he's up in Scotland at the moment, and he's using drone footage and the sort of clever editing that TikTok allows you to do. And he's absolutely killing it. It's
interesting. I've never used that before.
TikTok?
No, never have.
It's the Wild West, Nick. It's TikTok is where Instagram was 2015, 2014, where it allows so much organic reach. It's unbelievable. I had a 9-second video and it got seen 45,000 times.
Wow.
Just goes mental. Once it gets traction, it's gone. The only thing I would say about it is, like I said, it's the Wild West. I don't know if there is any guidelines on there. There's some videos I'm like, wow, how is that even being posted? But it'll figure itself out. But it's definitely a platform that allows really creative people to just go for it. And even average and rubbish accounts are getting millions of views on videos. it's definitely something to look into. But you will get hounded by loads of people asking to see your feet. Don't ask me why. That's just how they roll. It's just full of it.
I'm signing up. I'm signing up now. Then
get it downloaded. Yeah. One thing you one of the things you've done many things. Your Munros adventure, 2019 last year. I had it down as you did them in 6 months, just under 6 months.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah. Oh, just over 6 months, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Started in April, finished in October. Yeah.
Talk about the adventure that is Munros, and before you do that, some people might not know what Munros are, so if you want to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, no problem. So Sir Hugh Munro was like a mountaineer, Scottish mountaineer. He kind of picked these, or created the list of 3,000 foot summits, basically, mountains in Scotland. And the list changes every now and then because mountains get remeasured. So one might get
dropped out,
demoted. There's ones that have got demoted and ones that have got promoted to Munro status. So the number changes, not very frequently, but it's not changed since I did it, but it will change probably over the next few years again. So there's 282 of those on the list at the moment.
Wow, 282,
and they're all over the country of Scotland, basically. So as far south as Ben Lomond is the most southerly.
Right.
Mount Keane over to the east side, and the west side you've got all the Sky Munros.
Wow.
And Isle of Mull. So there's a few there on the islands, and then in the far north it's Ben Hope is the most northerly, which is right near the tip of the country. So it's a big spread of mountains across the country, really. Now,
I would say to people with Scotland probably is the last real remote place in the UK where you've got to have your shit together, especially if you're going for these remote Munros. Because not that I've done any, but sort of followed your progress. It looked like it was taking a day and a half just to get into even try and crack the summit.
Sometimes that's the case. It's not the case for all of them. There's a few that are nearby to a road or you're starting above sea level, but the majority, I would say, you're starting around sea level and they're a minimum of 3,000 feet. So you've got quite a bit of climbing to do. But the trickier ones, like to get to, are definitely the ones that have got like a 15k walk in before you even start to climb anything through a valley or whatnot. And they're just roads that are either... Sometimes they are fairly decent roads, but they're private, so there's no parking or anything. You can't use them, so you can walk up them or cycle. Quite a lot of people will Munro bag with bikes, so they can do the cycling and then they can get up and down in a day. I didn't have bike. I rented a bike for probably, I think it was 3 days in the Cairngorms for a few of the long runs in.
Okay.
A nice centre at Braemar where you can rent a bike, but I didn't have my own bike. I'm not a cyclist really, so I didn't have that for the majority. But that is a good way of getting the miles in.
Well, I'll ask this two ways. What was your favourite Munro, and what was the scariest Munro?
Okay,
Could
so
be the
they
same.
are two different Munros. So that my favourite, I have to say, is Blarven, which is. It is part of the Black Cooling, but it sits aside from the Black Cooling on Skye.
Right.
So it's the 11th Skye Munro.
Right.
But because it sits apart from the rest of the ridge, you park by a lock and you start walking up from the car park, following a stream, really nice, quite picturesque, lovely Scottish scenery. And then you end up in like a corrie, which is like an amphitheatre of rock, which is just really like stunning and dramatic.
Yeah.
But you still haven't got those big mountainous views, so you can see across to the sea. You can't really see, you can't see any of the rest of the Cooling Ridge.
Yeah.
And then it's a nice little cheeky scramble, so it's nice, hands on rock. I always love a bit of that to kind of break up the monotony of just walking. Lovely cheeky scramble, and then you're up, and then as you summit at the Trig Pillar, the whole of the Cooling Ridge just opens in front of you. Oh wow! Like from sort of south to north, from left to right. And we did that Munro on like the most stunning day of beautiful blue sky, excellent visibility. And I just had that feeling in my stomach, that, oh, wow, this is a special moment. And I just sat there. It was lovely. It was quite still, but there was no midges. It was just a comfortable place to sit on a summit in a light breeze and just take in that awesome view. And I honestly believe it's one of the nicest views in all of Britain.
Wow.
So that'd be, and plus it was very easy to do as well, because it was only, I think it was about 8k in total.
Oh, right, okay.
That's so to get literally from car to summit is very achievable for a lot of people if they're comfortable with that bit of scrambling just to get on the summit. It's nothing above grade 1. It was quite
nice.
Doable. So so I think that was my favourite, purely for it felt like a rest day in a day of big long days. It was a gimme really. And then just beautiful views. And then what was your second question? So that was scariest.
Or the one that intimidated you the most, or
the ones that intimidated me, but in the end they weren't the scariest. But the ones that intimidated me in the lead up to it was the rest of the Cooling Ridge on Skye. So they were the ones where you needed to have like you needed to do a moderate rock climb in the inaccessible pinnacle, which is most people's most feared Munro for that reason. But we hired a guide, because I'm not a rock climber. I've never really climbed outdoors at all. So he provided harnesses, helmets, things like that. And the most important thing he provides, obviously, is the guiding service that gets you to the top.
Yeah. What was his name?
Adrian Trendall.
Right.
He runs the All Things Cooling Facebook page. Really popular page, all celebrating everything cooling, basically. Lovely, great photographer as well, and a great guide writer. So he took us up and really made me feel at ease. It just filled me with the confidence, the gaps in confidence that I might have had. He filled them with, you can do it, and gave me that bit of extra support when I needed it. Put me on the rope if ever I felt like it was a little bit exposed and I was feeling a bit iffy. So it was just perfect, really. I was feared of the inaccessible pinnacle. I mean, even its name, it doesn't sound like inviting, does it? It sounds like you're going to die on it. But really, it was so enjoyable. It's like a shark's fin of rock that just comes up. It's quite stepped. So there's plenty of handholds and footholds, and the only dodgy move, you were like a metre from the B layer. So he was holding the rope tight. I felt confident enough to do it. But just so happened as well, the day that we tackled that, there was the most amazing cloud inversion. So it was like fluffy marshmallow cloud, like just less than 50 metres below us. Brocken Spectre, my first Brocken Spectre, the little halo thing. When you're on the summit of the Impin, I'm like, we're really, really blessed with the weather for that day. It was just fantastic. So in the end, it wasn't the scariest Munro, if you know what I mean, because the conditions were right and everything. So I think the point that I had the biggest wobble was probably on one called Larven, which was like part of the Knoydart Peninsula. And it's really just far away from anywhere, really.
Right,
and we'd done it on a bothy called Sowerleys, which was going to be a massive epic 40-kilometre day with about 3,000 metres of ascent over 3 Munros and then return back round. So it was like, to get to the halfway point was the summit of Larven, pretty much. Wow. And there was one like scrambly moment where I just thought, I can't do it. I can't physically get up there. It was really towards the end of the challenge as well. And James, my partner, had to come down and just spot me from below. It's just teamwork, really. It's just working together to make sure that you can get through your hardest moments, And that wasn't the most difficult, on paper.
I get it.
Mountain, but in my head at the time, feeling weak, feeling like I'd pushed myself so hard, and I just needed that little bit of, of a push at that point.
And you spent obviously. Your boyfriend James, who's fairly big in the old hiking game, Instagram thing himself. How did it, used to together for that period of time? You're not married, are you? Your boyfriend and girlfriend?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
just boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah.
You're in each other's pockets at quite stressful moments. Did it have like a bit of an effect on you? I mean, it's a great thing to achieve together, but there must have been times where you're like, if he says that again, I'm going to punch him.
Yeah, exactly. So it was so weird because we'd not even lived together before that point. So we'd gone from me living in Sheffield in South Yorkshire, him living over in Cumbria. seeing each other like once every other weekend probably, so like having a really like perfect view of like the relationship. You know, you could just go and like be on your best form for like 2 days a week and then go back to work. So yeah, living in each other's pockets, it was very challenging, you know, because there was times when we had the best time, you know, when we were like playing like games, singing when nobody's around in like high winds and just being silly. Having really deep and meaningful conversations as well, which pass like hours, and like you feel like you're really getting to know someone. But yeah, then there's times when you know, he's not going fast enough, he wants to take his jacket off, he wants to do another costume change, and or I'm too slow on a descent and he wants to run ahead, and you know, and it's just you are going to want to do different things at different times, you know what I mean? Like you know, one of you really needs a snack, other one really needs the toilet, you know, whatever. You just and it is annoying if it's cold or it's really hot or whatever, and you just want to get finished.
What was I'm interested in the planning process of this. Like, did you two both sit down together and sort of say, let's go and smash all the Munros in a sort of quick time? Because
yeah, not really. It was more James's thing, because he's done all the Nuttalls, which are the 400 odd 2,000 foot mountains in England and Wales, and he'd done all the Irish ones as well, all the Irish and Northern Irish ones. So for him, the Munros was always going to be the next thing to do. So for me, the choice was, do I go along with him, or do I, you know, I'll let him go away on his own and then me sort of catch up with him when he's back, or maybe go and join him for a few but not do the whole thing. And so I decided to jump in and go for it. But then bizarrely, because he was so busy with work, I ended up doing most of the planning. Wow. So I like took a couple of guidebooks, a load of maps, and read a lot of blogs and things online, and just went about the planning that way. Just seeing how many. Some are really obvious, where you've got like a ridge line with 7 Munros on, and you're just going east to west and then hitchhike back or whatever. But others are really there's lots of choice for kind of, do you do that on its own, or do you add it to this and you make a really long day and building a wild camp or whatever. You know, there's quite a lot of logistics going on with it. But I enjoy that. I mean, I love sitting. There's nothing, honestly, if I'm not climbing a mountain or wild camping on a mountain, I love sitting in front of a spreadsheet. It's like a lovely Excel with lots of little color-coded cells and all these stats and everything like that. I'm absolutely buzzing off that. I'm quite weird.
Spreadsheets. Is that from a former life before you?
I think I was like a IT project manager before, so I've always had to use a lot of like spreadsheets and things. But I'm just a really organised person, so I like to think about things, and I do like the spontaneity and the things that adventure just throws at you, because there is always random things that just happen regardless how well your planning is. Like flooding. Like one time we couldn't get down a road because it was totally flooded and we couldn't even get the car to the start point, and you've just got to think on your feet and just change up your plans. But I do enjoy the planning process. Yeah,
it's a saying that I use a lot. When I say it all moves, that technically means it all changes. And it's true. You know, we had a saying in the army, a plan never survives the first contact. So the moment you sit there, you make this. That's why I don't really. I remember I had a guy turn up once. He'd spent hours writing this route card. Like, it was the best route card I've ever seen in my life. And he showed me it, and I just threw it in the bin. I was like, brilliant. He was like, I spent hours on that. I was like, yeah, no, I can tell, but it's complete waste of your time. I was like, because we'll just go out with the map, we'll open it, we'll orientate it, and we'll go, let's go there. And now let's go there. And I'm like, and let's go there. And I was like, it's a good skill to know, but it's a little bit too regimented for what the mountains is. Do you know what I mean? You've got to be uber fluid, and you've got to be able to say, well, I did plan on going up this track. However, things have now changed and I'm now going this way. But because some people, if I've got a group with me and I go off the track, people are we lost? No, we're just not walking on that track. Do you know what I mean? But because they're so used to following tracks, I don't really follow tracks. Do you know what I mean? If I can just go,
no, it's a good thing to do, because the worst thing is they often just lead you nowhere. They're like sheep trods, aren't they? Where you just think like, where's this sheep going? Wherever that sheep's going is not where I want to go.
It's not where I want to go, but it's good. And you're right in what you say. You know, you come up with all these plans, and you plan this and you plan that, and then all of a sudden the weather just instantly changes, and you're like, well, we need a new plan.
Yeah. Or the weather's like really good, and you're like, actually, that looks not far away. Let's have a quick look at map, see what it's like. You know, how far have we got to drop, and how long will it take us to get back up the other side, and is it craggy and what? You've just got to be able to make those kind of decisions, and then extend or reduce your day accordingly.
On the snap, I wanted to sort of quickly touch on kit and equipment. You're a big advocate of a Suntour watch. I think a lot of people know that, and as well, I always sort of see you wearing like hybrid boots, like a sort of crossover between a boot and like a trail shoe. Is that just a personal preference thing?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I would be such a shoe person. I always thought I had quite weak ankles, and I'd wear like boots primarily. But I've strengthened I think my ankles have strengthened through wearing a mountain shoe, and actually I feel better and stronger for it. So yeah, a good shoe with a sort of strong, grippy sole. And depending on what you're doing, Gore-Tex if you're going to be in like wet grass and things like that, but non-Gore-Tex if you're going to be in a hot climate, walking through, doing river crossings and things like that. Yeah, sometimes non-Gore-Tex is better for that, and they'll dry out quicker.
Any brands you particularly like? Any standout brands for you? I've
been wearing Salomon shoes, trail shoes primarily. And I will be using those in the future on long distance trails. I'm planning for this year. Absolutely. So I've tried. What other brands have I tried? I've got some lower boots as well. They're really, really kind of leather, hard wearing, but a lot heavier than Salomon. So Salomon do like really lightweight, and I think if you want to move fast and light, that kind of ethos, then Salomon and companies like Innovate, and they're really good for things like that if you want to go fast and light.
Any aspirations to do the spine race, which is just sort of finishing now? Because that looks absolutely
no, it looks torturous. It looks absolutely torturous. No, I'll leave that to the trail runners and the fell runners. But God, I'm really, really like in awe of people like that who can really push themselves to the limits. But I like my sleep. Bedding down for like an hour's kip, if that, like a little rest.
No, that's fair enough.
Lactic acid build up and everything. Oh God, no.
No, it's some an achievement. Have you done much on the Pennine Way?
No, I haven't. I've done a little bit. I've done Cross Fell and those kind of fells around there, which I think that touches on Pennine Way, doesn't it? Yeah. But no, I've not walked a lot of it. It's
a nice. I've done a little bit. It's It's definitely. It's got its own beauty, should we say? Which I think a lot of places has, and I think that race in particular, I like to follow it every year, and I just think I could do with doing a. The thing is with the Pennine Way, it is very much once you're on it, you've just got to go for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's very hard to we'll put a loop in and we'll loop back on ourselves. It's almost like let's do 20 mile, stay over, do another 20 mile, and pretty much what Becky did last year in her challenge when she did it that way. So, cool.
I think Pennine Way were one of Becky's favourite sections of the trail. Yeah, she had a lot of good stories come back from walking that. Yeah.
It looks part of it does look stunning. Nick, we're flying through this, mate. I knew we would. We always do. So we're going to move on to the 5 watts now. The first one. What's the greatest advice you've ever been given?
Oh, greatest advice. So I'd say it's not necessarily advice, but it's a quote that really like resonates with me. So, a ship in harbour is safe, but that's not what ships are for. I absolutely love that quote, because I'm like, it is exactly right. And I think as like human beings, we're exactly the same. It's like, what are we built for, really? We're not built for kind of like sitting on a settee and like stuffing his face is just watching telly all the time, you know what I mean? Or just working, sitting. It's very unnatural sitting at a desk, like in that kind of position for like 8 hours a day. And I think like you could do like anything you want to do, anything you turn your mind to, but don't always take the safe option is my advice. So like I've taken more risks this last sort of 2 or 3 years than I ever have in the whole of my other 33 years. But like it's been like I've been the happiest person that I have, and I have hurt myself. You know, I've hurt myself like physically. I've been emotionally low, but the highs are so high. Like, and I think that's what I get from challenges, and that's why I should sort of advocate people challenging themselves.
I've not heard that saying before, but I'm definitely going to steal it now. But no, it's brilliant, and you're totally right. There's loads of people who I always sometimes I'll say to people, stop liking the photos and get in the photos. Do you know what I mean? Like it's all well and good liking people's photos on Instagram, but at the end of the day, what you doing this Saturday, what you doing Sunday? Well, what it is, like, well, stop telling stories, right? And just go and join that group or that hike or that company or whatever you want to do. Just sign up and go and do it. You know, some people say to me, I'd love to come out with you, John, but your hikes are too long. I'm just like, well, get fitter then. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, get fitter and then come out. Oh, but 20 miles is a long way. Well, 30 and 40 and 50 is even longer. I was like, just go and work on it and come out. Do you know what I mean? You're missing out on great days and you're telling stories. Like, anyone can do it. You just it's if it's in there to do it. Do you know what I mean? And,
sure. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I always say to people, it's only 20 miles. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make you pregnant. You know what I mean? No one's ever finished and gone, oh, pregnant now. Like, it's only 20 miles. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You might have sore legs and sore feet, but they'll be all right tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no long-term issues.
But there's really long-term memories and fantastic. You know what I mean? Like, it's stuff you talk about with people for years to come, isn't it? So
yeah. Absolutely. Second one, mate. Well, this is a good one for you. What's on your bucket list?
Oh, bucket list. So, like, I've got some. I really want to get into like long distance walking now. So I did a bit of trekking in the Alps last year, in the Swiss Alps. I did part of the Via Alpina and part of the Alpine Passes Trail. I'd love to do those like full trails. They'd be like absolutely epic. Tour de Mont Blanc is on the list for this year, definitely. I'm wanting to take that off for a while. That goes through like France, Italy and Switzerland. Nice. 3 different countries all around Mont Blanc. Should be stunning scenery. Lots of, they're just so well set up in the Alps, you know, for like huts and things like that, serviced huts, non-serviced huts. Even like little signage, you know, to help people. Everything's like they want to encourage people to come, not discourage people, or it's not like, you know what I mean? It just feels really like inclusive of all abilities, and there's a variety of different trails you could do, and it all just absolutely like mountains on steroids, just absolutely amazing. But like, and then another one is like Julian Alps. So like in Slovenia, there's an alpine trail you can do. It's about 600 kilometers through the mountain ranges of Slovenia. And Slovenia is like a country I've never been to, so that's like something I really want to just jump into and try exploring, like a totally new country, new culture. That's something I'm looking into at the moment.
There's some good Via Ferratas out there as well.
Oh yeah.
Some proper spicy Via Ferratas. Makes Honesters look like the playground. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Honesters the warm up for the Via Ferratas of the Alps. Yeah,
it certainly is. Third one, mate. What's been your toughest day?
Toughest day was part of the Munros. Was one of the biggest days. So it was a 15k trek into the Bothy and then an overnight in the Bothy, Sulis Bothy in Noida area. And so we got up at, I think it was 5 o'clock in the morning. And this is October, so it was well before daylight to get started, because you knew it was going to be such a big day. And the plan was to return to the Bothy.
Right.
So we took a couple of things in the pack that if we didn't make it back, we could survive on the hill. So a bit of extra food, I think like a sleeping bag and a mat between us and an emergency shelter, you know, like a couple of critical items, but that's it. And then we set out in the dark, and that was just... from the off, really, navigation was an issue because you've got no light, so you've just got the torch light. And we managed to get across like a rocky outcrop down onto a fields which were swampy. Like they were just like from the first. This is all within the first hour. You had like water up to your sort of calves, and it was just. I mean, you knew you were going to have wet feet for like the entire day. Then hit like so that was a sort of like cross country a little bit, and then you started with the rise up the hill, so that was quite a spicy sort of climb up, sort of grassy, tufty, rocky terrain to the first Munro, and then it was along the ridges to the next two Munros, which was more comfortable because you're sticking to the crest of the ridge, but they're just so far away. They look so close, but actually when you get to it, they're actually quite a distance away. And then the way back was kind of to come off the other side, the back side, sort of the north side of the last Munro, and then twist back round to get back to that bothy. And I think we managed to get to the highest point of the pass, which was 600 metres at about 7 o'clock as the sun was going down, had some dinner, and then it was part of the Cape Wrath Trail to get back to the bothy, but we had such poor visibility, and by that time it was raining as well. And when you just think every part of your body's like screaming to stop. It was like a 40k route with 3,000 meters ascent, and I could just feel like my legs were just, there's not much left, and you just want to stop, but you're like, I really want to get back to the bothy, and we just kept going. So after dark we had from 7 p.m. until I think it was midnight that we got back to the bothy. I was really hoping nobody else was going to be there, because it would be quite disturbing for them to have people come in at that time, but luckily the bothy was empty, and I took my boots off and my socks, and my feet were like dead person's feet. Like they were white, the skin looked like it was all shriveled, like it was just gonna, my soles of my feet were just gonna fall off basically. And it was awful, and I honestly thought, I don't know how they're going to recover enough to do the 15k that we had to do to get back to civilization. But miraculously the next day they woke up and my muscles were all tight and really in a lot of pain with my muscles, but the feet had recovered and they'd just dried up and sort of overnight. It's amazing what the human body can do.
Yeah, it's the greatest tool we'll ever own. And it's what you do with it. Like that's some serious robustness, that, for you to just keep on soldiering on. And there must have been times when you sort of looked at your watch or your map and you're gone, please don't say there's 10k. And you're like, it's 10k to go. I'm fuming.
You think you've left it enough time between checking. You're going to have covered a lot more ground, and you're just looking. You think, I haven't.
Yeah.
There's still 100 minutes to go, but it was just a lot of night time. I think in total it were like 5.5 hours of like complete darkness trekking, and it's difficult that over wet, boggy, pathless terrain. It's really quite hard, and so I'm proud of myself for that. But it's moments, like equally proud.
Yeah, it's a beast. It sounds a beast. Do you know what I mean? I love to psychologically get at people. So if they come out with me on a particularly long day, and I do it to see who's still paying attention, and it's funny. So someone will say to you, how far now, John? And I'll go, it's about 2.4 k's, mate. And then we leave it half an hour, 45 minutes, and they'll go, how far now, John? And I say, about 2.7k. And they're like, it was 2.5 k's 45 minutes ago. And like sometimes,
you're a cruel man, John. You're a cruel man.
But the funny thing is sometimes people don't pick up on it. They just go, all right, because they're not there. Do you know what I mean? It's irrelevant. And I've even done it when I knew we were only 500 meters away from the finish, and someone's gone, how far now, John? And I'm like, 2.5k, mate. We're looking about 45 minutes, maybe it's an hour. And they're like, oh. and then all of a sudden, I'm like, here's the finish. And they're like, you said. I was like, I lied.
Because it shouldn't matter at the end of the day. You're not there yet, so just keep going. Is my view.
Yeah,
you can't see I can't. Just keep going. But
I can't make it go any quicker.
I do torture myself. Like we're looking, and then I'm like, that's that right. So 3k. Right? If I walk 4k an hour, I'm doing the maths in my head to try and give myself the time, because we target driven as humans. Like that's what we want to do naturally.
We do love a target, don't we? We do love
sometimes the time goes quicker if you just get your head down and just get it done, doesn't it? You know.
Yeah, I'm renowned for sort of saying when people say what time I think we're finishing, I'll go, be about 4, and then someone else in my group will go, be about 6. And then, but For me, I just never really. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, we're there when we're there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
We're here now, and I can't get you to the finish any faster, so it's sort of irrelevant. We're going at your pace. If you'd like to go at my pace, it's going to get really, 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 really uncomfortable really, really quickly. But I'm lucky because my partner's a machine, and when we go out together, it just ends up being like an accountability session beyond belief.
Yeah.
And, we never do anything slow. It's always like, bloody hell, we've just done 25 Ks in 4 hours. I think we did. Yeah. I think last week we did 22.5 Ks in 3.5 hours. I was like, Jesus Christ, it's on here, isn't it? So, fourth one, mate. What's been your happiest day?
The happiest day at the Munros, I think, was the second to last day, which was the penultimate Munro, basically. Yeah. And reaching the top of there, I genuinely felt like I'd finished, if you know what I mean. So I always knew the Munro that we'd saved until last, the 282nd Munro, was Ben Lomond, which is the most southerly, where family and friends could join us, and it could be a bit of a celebration, you know what I mean? We could go up and it'd be like quite easy going on a path the whole way there, you know, no trauma at all. So the second to last one, which was pathless slog, middle of nowhere, 18K kind of thing, that felt like the real finish, if you know what I mean. So that's when I personally celebrated like the end of the challenge and just felt at my happiest. That I got that sense of achievement of having gone through that for 6 months.
What a great
and because
thing.
I quit my job in the April, so I've basically quit my job I worked to notice and everything, but my last day at work was a Wednesday. My house completed on the Friday, and I started climbing Munros on the Tuesday. So I'd just gone from literally sitting at a desk Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, every day, in the lead up to all of a sudden climbing mountains full time almost. Fair enough. Then, it was quite a change. I think it's when I got to the top of that second to last summit that I thought, oh my God, you've come a long way now. You know what I mean? That's a real. And I think if you use apps, like I've got like British Hills app where you can watch it all go from like, I think it's yellow if you've not climbed it to it turns green.
Oh, wow.
And to watch the map like come
disappear.
On.
And, that's class.
So everything tick off green is like, gives you a lot of sort of, you know, pride and whatnot.
That's great. Go on, mate. Fifth and final one. What's next for you And
then my next big challenge is my Tearoa challenge, which is like a through hike, if you want to use that American kind of term, long distance hike. Yeah. It's 3,000 kilometers from the tip of the North Island of New Zealand to the very tip of the South Island, New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
So it's quite a grueling trail. It's quite similar to the UK weather-wise. You kind of do it in our winter, which is their summer. Yeah. But yeah, you get a mixed weather. So you have some really wet days, wet, muddy days, and then some really nice warm days in the summer.
That's class.
But yeah, wild camping and thrown in, and also some huts. They've got like maintained huts that they've got along the trail, particularly in the South Island where it's very, very remote. Awesome. And you go through ranges, lots of river crossings, and it's just a beautiful environment to be doing that. So that's been. When do I do it? It's starting probably November this year.
Wow, I look forward to doing that.
Fly out in October and start in November. So yeah, start in the north and finish in the south over about 4.5 months maybe. I mean, depending how some people run it in like less than 100 days, you know. But now I want to enjoy it. I want to push myself every day to do decent days. But if I like a place, I'll have a couple of rest days there. And
there's nothing wrong with that. Brilliant. Nick, look, thanks very much for coming on the show. We have reached the end. Ladies and gentlemen, from working a 9 to 5, being in the hustle to smashing Munros in a really, really sort of fast time, traveling around the world, doing what she wants to do. It's available for you as well. People listening, you can do what you want to do. We don't have to just live the monotony. There's more to life than Netflix, and there's more to life than whinging about a job you hate. You just have to be prepared to suffer. That's the only difference. Nick, where can people find you? Not literally.
Yeah, no, literally.
Yeah.
No, they literally can't find me because I sold my house, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit like, and I'm just in a tent in random places here and there, couch surfing. So yeah, good luck if you can find me. But yeah, I'm on Instagram, adventurer.nic. My website's adventurernic.com.
Yeah.
So yeah. On
Have
Facebook
you got
as
any
well.
speaking or any sort of
you could
seminars coming up?
Keswick Mountain Festival. I've got a slot there this year, this Saturday, I think, at 4 o'clock.
Nice.
That's middle of May. So yeah, I'll be over there
Cool.
speaking. I think that's if you in the festival, that's can sign up to come along to that. So
cool. That's been
really
ladies and gentlemen. That's been Adventure Nic. She's on a mission, and you should get on the mission. Next on the Eagle podcast, this is a 1 ton on tap. Someone's converted an old Army Land Rover into a mobile beer factory. So he's got a really great Instagram page. It's cool how he's changed an old sort of military vehicle into a brewery, and he does to all the festivals, etc., etc. Check him out on Instagram. 1 ton on tap. Great guy. Again, Nic, thanks very much for coming on, mate. We'll get this out as soon as we can, and I'll see you on the hills.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Adios, mate. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.